Hi. All right, let me just... All right, I'm sure people will continue to find their way in, but for now, why don't we just get started? If there are any questions that you guys have or anything that you're experiencing in your practice that you'd like to discuss or bounce off the group, I'm happy to do that. You can just put it in the chat, which I will open right now so that I can see. But otherwise, let's just arrive. Take a breath and just let yourself stop. That forward movement of reaching into the future, just let that stop. And be with this sacred moment. Use your senses to anchor yourself in this moment. See, hear, feel. And let it be that simple. The simplicity of right now. There's nothing to figure out. Nothing to do about the stories of your life. Nothing to fix. Just this, right here, right now. Step deeper and deeper into it. The story of your life problems are like a garment, like a coat. You own the coat, but you don't have to wear it every minute of your life. Take it off. It was fashioned into being. It's not an absolute truth. Take it off and be with what's left. All the people I see here tonight have experienced what's left at one point or another. We hand you skills for navigating the story in this class. But more than that, we teach you how to put it down. Because if you can put it down, there are deep implications to that. What does it mean if you can just set it aside and none of those things are bothering you? What does it mean that you can shift your attention and all the limitations in the flow of your being that seemed so real, contingent upon something that seemed so real, instantly clear up and you're free of it? What does that mean? What does that mean for how to view the story part of you? These are questions with deep, visceral answers. Visceral in the sense of knowing what's real and what isn't, of being able to gauge how much you can really trust something. That's why spiritual teachings have described this life as a dream, an illusion. You know, they talk about enlightenment, but that's a very young word. The original word was awakening. Waking up. Waking up to the dream. When you're asleep at night and you awaken within a dream, when you become lucid, the implications for everything you're seeing change. Boundaries get lifted off. The meaning of the nightmare lightens. It might even become interesting. Informative of your deepest self, of what sort of things you're holding on to beneath the surface of your consciousness. The meaning changes when you become lucid in a dream. And that's the same thing that happens when you awaken in the dream of life. It's an interesting dance, actually. For a while, it's like nothing matters. And then over time, everything matters. And then even that continues to evolve. Let go into the simplicity of this moment. Let's take some time and deepen. Attention at the forehead and crown. Eyes just anchored somewhere in front of you. And just begin to breathe. You're not trying to push out the mind. Let it all have its space. The mind, the sounds in the room, the sounds outside the window. And the vast backdrop of silence in which it's all occurring. Just sit with the simplicity of it. Not to heal, not to understand, nothing to master. Just be in it. When you sit like this, your day arises as images and feelings. Give them their space. Let the image be the image. You just sit with the simplicity of the arising while you breathe. Nothing to change, nothing to fix, nothing to suppress. What if you just let go of your chest? Just make your heart soft and available. So that it can participate in the naturalness of this moment. Nothing to achieve. Nothing to hold yourself to. Layers upon layers of stories, self-perceptions, can you feel how this asks you to just release your grip on them? They don't need to be banished. They actually need to breathe. They're just energies in search of completion. And if you can just let go, they'll do their little flurry and then take their place in the grand tapestry out of which all of this comes. So there's nothing to push away. All the tricks of mind and the addictive pleasures that we do to be comfortable that never actually make us comfortable. Comfort is something you are. And from this space you can experience that. But it's not something to conjure. It's just what's underneath all the crap. You can feel it, can't you? Just beginning to resonate under those few layers. Just kind of fluffing those layers, getting them ready to let go. In life, those layers, when they start to get mobilized, place images and feelings in your mind. And instead of letting them go, you tend to them and play with them. And so they're reinforced. And so you don't get comfortable. But now you're going to let the comfort become more and more of itself. It has depth and dimension to it. The word comfort only really describes the little piece of it that pokes its head through to play a role within the story. But when you let it become, you can see the clarity of it, the power of it. The resonant, pervading stillness of it. And if you keep going, you'll come to experience the intelligence of it. It knows the beginning, middle, and end of every blade of grass, every hair on your head. And it's the core of what you are. Inseparable from the divine, by whatever name you want to call it. Now I'm going to be quiet and give you a chance to just experience that. Renew your willingness. That arc of willingness that tapers off over time is a storyline. Step beyond it. Renew. It's not about pushing or pulling. It's about not participating in the story. The stable wakefulness. Where everything can flow. So stay in the meditative state, but I want to talk to you a little bit. That feeling that you get of, I've been sitting here for this amount of time, my attention is waning. That feeling of an arc that's coming up and coming down. is like a veil that keeps you from reality. You know, you've lifted veil after veil after veil. You've peeled the onion down. And yet, even when you're in the silence, there's just this part of you that wants to create a moment out of time with it. A beginning, a middle, and an end. The construct of a story. You feel that? It's kind of the first layer. It's the first little piece of paper mache that gets built on and built on and built on. And then you fill it with your attention. You become it. You play the role. And then you quickly forget that you stepped into it and you now think you are it. And you forget that you're free. You forget to put it down. The thing about that in life is it actually takes a lot of energy. It uses up a lot of your personal power to hold these intricate stories in place. That energy gets robbed from your mind, from your creativity, from your enthusiasm, from your body, and filters through these jagged stories with jagged consequences that create leaks in your energy. You feel better after a class like this because you've had some time for those life forces to just fill, you know, without all the leaking. If left to its own devices, it becomes rigid. You know, just kind of sedimentary, habitual, stuck in its ways. And through your misplaced belief system, you get stuck in it because you believe it's you. There's a lot of energy in freeing up that stuckness, even without the meditative state. You know, in Qigong exercises, they have things like the animal frolics, where you basically let go of everything and take on the form of an animal and move around as that animal. And when you're done, you feel incredibly energized. And it's not because there's something energizing about that animal. It's because in order to do that, you had to free up all of your stuck misidentifications. And all the energy that they were trapping gets released back to you and becomes available. Even within the story, your view of the world becomes rigid. You know, I taught this class in person for many, 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 many years. And, you know, you always get people who think they know a lot about spirituality. And they're people usually who can't meditate to save their own lives. But they have lots of book knowledge about it. And they're just dense with their knowledge. They're so stuck in it. They can name the 8 thises, the 12 that's of any particular path. But they're heavy and stuck. In a way, freedom is the ability to let go of what you know. Because your knowledge is just a construct that you're using to understand a world that otherwise is beyond you. The reason that that seems so cohesive and not just like something you put together is because as humans, we all have a system of agreement brought together by our language and our interactions that constructs an experience of the world that is decidedly human. Those become habitual grooves in our pattern of processing. But then within that, our beliefs about the world, about the characteristics of the world, become ingrained as well. And you end up living the same few days over and over and over again. But there are many ways to view life. Some people believe that we are in a virtual reality. And you know what? It's as plausible as anything else. And if you let go of your reality and walked around with that as your dominant hypothesis, it would free up all kinds of energy. Not because it's true and something else isn't, but because you stepped out of your habitual groove. And so you freed that up. You've massaged the structure of your mind. Other people don't view themselves as walking from one place to another. They view themselves as progressing the scenery in front of them, slowly transforming it into another location. It's as true as anything else. But it's not what most people see every day. They could. It's as functional as anything else. But we get stuck in one way of seeing things. You know, in Toltec shamanism, they have a practice where you try to become unstalkable so that you don't have any pattern that happens every single day. You drive to work one day, and then the next day you find a completely different route. And then the next day a completely different route. And whenever one thing becomes kind of comfortable and staid, you undo that groove and find another way. If there are places that you go and places that you don't go, you shift that up and you go to places that you would not go. Abstain from things that you're used to doing every day. And it all gets freed up. And all that extra energy, when you sit in meditation, is energy that can take you deeper into the heart of what you are. But it also teaches you a safer way to navigate this world, a way to navigate it without getting stuck. I've always been willing to completely dissolve my life and rebuild it. I've done it several times. You end up getting that many times more life experience out of one life. When you're in it like you would never leave. You commit. But you can also dissolve it because that commitment was yours to give and take. It's not just automatic pilot. This week, I'd like you to focus on these two kind of poles of your practice. On the one hand, I want you to let go of layer after layer after layer and be with that still part of you that's real. And I want you to notice when you try and start to cover it over with a story. It almost always will involve a sense of time. Time is one of those kind of key components to the story. And spend time with what you really are. But then in the dream of your life, in the story of your life, start noticing those grooves that you're in and force yourself to do something else. Rip up the threads of the fabric a little bit so that they can come together in a different arrangement. Notice what that does to you. Notice what it does to your meditation. Notice what it does to the experience of being you. How you live your life makes a difference in how you meditate. and vice versa. The story part of your life becomes like a yantra. It becomes like a talisman. I'm really trying to think of the word. Those Tibetan sand drawings that they create. The word's escaping me. They're colorful and they symbolize impermanence and they destroy them directly afterwards. Mandala. It's like a mandala. The choices you make all day long, they're part of the vibration of the story, and they can trap you in or let you go, depending on how you live that day. So live it differently and see what that does to your ability to let go into meditation. And when you're in meditation, steep yourself. Let it go deeper and deeper and deeper. Because there's so much to experience there. As simple as it looks in the beginning. If you can do all of that, you'll gain a great deal of flexibility and personal freedom. Are there any questions about that before we end for the night? Okay, everybody, I'm going to let you get back to your night. I will be here next Thursday. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Good night, everyone.
Good night.